So what we know is that close and intimate relationships are associated with happiness and with both physical and mental well-being. And as it has been said several times today, children born preterm have shown to present more social interaction problems than full terms. What is less clear, or was less clear, was how do they master social relationships when they reach adulthood? Research had provided quite inconsistent findings, particularly when it came to romantic relationships and also into parenthood, and there were very few studies that looked into the quality of peer and romantic relationships. So in order to address these limitations in the literature, we perform a systematic review and meta-analysis that looked into the association of being born preterm and ever being in a romantic relationship, ever having experienced sexual intercourse, becoming a parent, and the quality of the romantic relationship and also social support from peers. And in order to do this, we looked into registry studies and prospective studies reporting on the social outcomes that we were interested in, and we looked into databases such as PubMed, PsychoInfo, Web of Science, and Embase for papers reporting on these outcomes. And we initially identified 2,240 studies, and of these studies, 21 met our inclusion criteria and were eligible to be meta-analyzed. So in terms of effect size, we use odds ratio and hazard Gs with 95% confidence intervals, which were then meta-analyzed with random effects meta-analysis. In order to explore possible heterogeneity among the studies, we conducted several subgroup analyses. So we looked into degree of prematurity, and here we had 3 groups: extreme preterm, very preterm, and moderate to late preterm. We also looked into the possible moderating effect of age, where we had 2 age groups: sex, and also type of studies, because we included both cohort and registry studies. So we were able to include more than 4 million summary data from more than 4 million participants, particularly for romantic partnership and also for parenthood. And what we found was that individuals born preterm were less likely to be in a romantic relationship, to ever have experienced sexual intercourse, and also to be parents. And we found that there was high heterogeneity among these studies, and therefore we performed our subgroup analysis. And as you can see here on the figure, there is a dose-response association between degree of prematurity and these social outcomes. So, for example, these associations were small for these effect sizes were small for romantic partnership and for parenthood, and they were moderate for sexual intercourse. So, for example, for romantic partnership, adults that were born preterm were about 28% less likely than those born at term to be in a romantic partnership. But when we look into sexual intercourse, this number increases up to about 55%. And And of course, those born extremely preterm were at a higher risk of not experiencing these social outcomes. Now, when we look at our other subgroup analysis, we found that this pattern of association was found both for men and for women, and we also found that the same pattern of association in the younger age group and the older age group, which indicates that preterms do not tend to catch up later on in making these social milestones. We also found that cohort studies were more likely to report these differences. So we didn't find differences in parenthood and in romantic partnership in registry studies, but we did find this on the cohort studies. Now, looking into the quality of the relationship with a partner, so when they had partners and with friends, we see a bit of a different scenario here. So in general, being born preterm did not impair the quality of relationships with partners and with friends. And in fact, for the quality of the romantic relationship, we found a slightly more positive relationship. However, these findings need to be interpreted with some caution because we had much fewer studies included here and also fewer participants. Now, to conclude, so what our study indicates is that fewer adults born preterm experience romantic partnerships, sexual intercourse, or parenthood when they are compared with full terms. These effect sizes varied between from small to moderate, and this also indicates that adults born preterm could be at an increased risk of social isolation and also poor physical and mental health. It also indicates that the social difficulties that have been observed in childhood tend to persist into adulthood. And we believe that this is likely associated with individual characteristics such as being more socially withdrawn and shy, which makes it harder than to form and to build relationships. On a more positive note, although it's more difficult to build these relationships, we found that when they were able to have a partner or friend, being born preterm did not affect the quality of these relations. So using more objective measures that looked into making these social transitions, as well as more subjective measures such as the perception of the quality of the relationship, provided distinct but complementary information about the social lives of adults born preterm. And I believe that now the next step is trying to understand what is underlying these social difficulties in order to intervene timely and, promote their well-being. Thank you. I would like to thank you for your attention. Also recap project for funding this study, and Aitin and Dita, my colleagues in this work.